I want to thank everyone for your patience tonight. For those of you who have rejoined us via the internet, we had some difficulty with our equipment, but we are back online, as you already know, and hopefully if there are any stragglers, you'll catch up very quickly. I don't mind telling you to hold back the fire of these masters is not easy. It's like having a pressure cooker ready to go off, and all of a sudden the little dealy thing on the top says, release the pressure. But there's nobody there to release the pressure. You have to hold it. So thank you for your patience, because I know that the fire builds up in your vehicles as well, in anticipation and readiness for the Ascended Masters when they are coming. We are in the fourth ray, the white fire of the Mother Light. So hold on. Won't you make your attunement with the Chohan, Serapis Bey? Blessed sons and daughters of God, I, Serapis Bey, address you in the ray of the Mother Light, the white fire of being, so that you will have the opportunity to adjust your consciousness to that purity that is the natural estate and the core of being of your own God presence. For that is why you have come to these teachings, hearing this instruction, absorbing into your consciousness the charge of light and the momentum of Ascended Master consciousness allows you to be able to set your own standards as to where you fit in this grand and glorious hierarchical structure of light. For yes, blessed ones, you have an office. It is a most important office that you are to uphold. Being a son and daughter of God comes with its responsibilities, and you must take authority over life, for that is where you are gaining your mastery and attainment. To do so, however, requires that you have a full awareness and ability to move in, through, and around the white light of purity. For it is this Mother Light that you have come to know it as, that gives birth to all creative endeavors. It carries the pattern, an archetypal blueprint of the mighty I Am Presence, desired within the heart and fashioned to be released into the patterns of purity, so that as you receive that divine outpouring, it is already rich with the consciousness of God, ready to be builded. For yes, blessed ones, it is that which you require to think, to act, to be. It is that which God desires into being. For all must have the building of the white fire in order to establish life, not just as you know it in these physical octaves, but life as it is lived even in the ascended octaves. For we draw upon the purity of God in this white fire from the great central sun, so that each I am presence, drawing forth that white ray, is able to establish its own keynote identity, its stamp of identity upon life. You blessed ones have been given the grace and opportunity to embody within a realm where each day you may test the cycles of life and how you operate within that life. You have already learned how all-important is the threefold flame of the heart. What do you suppose conveys that threefold action in the core of your being? It is the white fire of the mother light. It is the rod upon which travels to and fro all the illumination, the will, the love, in varying proportions and dynamics, so that you can establish where you are the particular pattern of life by utilizing the earth, water, fire, air, akasha, to create. It is a safe environment where the greatest harm that can be really dealt by you is to yourself. So over time you learn what you can and cannot do, where you must place your attention, and what feeds back to you as a result. When you come to the retreats of the Chohans, you were schooled in many areas of life, and how the light of the specific ray of that Chohan plays upon your life. What perhaps you have not realized is the very core of your life is established by these rays. You could not be without the white fire, the light of purity, the light of the substance of God that shines forth, casting before every opportunity the substance of God upon which you can establish a thought, a word, an activity, an energy. When the hierarchy of the white ray of God's purity stands and releases their momentum to establish in the earth a core round which creation can take place. You begin to appreciate how all of the color, all of the dimensions, all of the patterns, all of the densities, all of the water, all that is established within the fire element, all takes place because the patterns of the mighty I Am presence, of your own individualization in God, as well as the collective whole of the amness of God, have sent forth the blueprint by which you can conduct your affairs, create life in each respective plane of consciousness. And when you are ascended, you will create in the ascended octaves, following the patterns of the pristine perfection that pour forth from the One. So you see, blessed hearts, one of those talents that you are to hone is to embrace purity, recognizing that there is a divine attribute to that purity, that you are not to sully, distort, or skew in any manner. And therefore, when the flame upon the altar of your heart begins to wrap its consciousness round about the core of the white fire, it is most in earnest to hold to that Edenic blueprint and pattern of purity. And as you begin to move through life, creating with the command of the threefold flame, and utilizing the pranic breaths of God that have been entrusted to you, you begin to see how all-important it is to hold to purity. It is hard for some to embrace perfection, but that is what purity is. It is the divine perfection of God that has not been tainted in any manner. When you establish a vibration in your outer vehicles that conveys the purity of God, that intonation that is carried with whatever action that may be, is unmistakable. It is felt through and through by those in attendance. It is witnessed by the fruit of your actions and your deeds. They may not know what to call it, nor understand it at all. But you know, for you have entered into the secret chamber of the heart. You have breathed upon the flame of God and allowed that flame to take up residence in your life, to be a pillar of fire. What many do not have the full appreciation of is that every experiment, every activity, every ability one brings to the fore is an exercise in gaining the attainment that is required to stand in the ascension flame. For it requires great discipline. It requires you to be able to hold to those Edenic patterns of the presence of God that abides upon the altar of the heart in each plane of consciousness, no matter where your attention may be. It matters not if it is in the gross physical that your attention is drawn to. You must be able to hold to the pattern of the flame upon the altar of your heart there. Likewise, your emotional body, your mental body, your memory body, akasha, your causal body, the electronic body. Wherever your consciousness travels, within your vehicles, you are required to be able to hold fast with great attention to the vibration that is the keynote of your own God presence. It is the core of who you are. And it is that core that establishes the current of the ascension flame that will carry you into that final initiation of your many incarnations, into the ascension and oneness with your God presence. Understanding this, blessed ones, you would likewise have an appreciation for the pharos of hierarchy, for it is this momentum of hierarchy that helps you to hold to that pattern, to still the atmosphere about you until you have gained your own momentum and attainment to do so, to hold in abeyance certain activities that might otherwise dissuade you from your path when it is lawful to do so. To nudge you to remember how to be your presence in action. This is how hierarchy assists you. Oh, there are still those filled with such rebellion. They have not moved beyond their childhood and would rather do it themselves. But I tell you, blessed ones, there is no one that ascends into the oneness with their God presence without the assistance of hierarchy. So it is foolhardy to think you will go it alone. You can ask any ascended master, newly ascended or long, long ago ascended, and they will tell you the same. Without the assistance of the Brotherhood of Light, without the archangels and archai, without the Elohim, they would not have been able to accomplish such a momentous victory. Because the lords of karma having been seated to assist mankind, have determined there is greater opportunity that can be afforded the sons and daughters of God upon earth. The cosmic councils have rallied and continue to strive mightily to assist you in putting aside the childishness of the human creation that seems to have plagued mankind, so that they will awaken to the purity that is within them and begin to pull upon the threads of the garment of their own holy Christ presence, ever close at hand, breathing upon it, expanding that flame, and establishing more of a momentum of God good in their life. But that even in and of itself will not be sufficient for that one or those life streams to ascend. It will require a more earnest involvement in the path to the ascension, just as many of you have embraced. For it has not gone without notice that you are in earnest to win your ascension. You have made many sacrifices in your life. You have taken responsibility in your life. You have taken authority over your life to be constant at all things, meeting the necessities of the requirements that you have learned from this altar and from your ascended master sponsor, the archangels and archai, and through the flame of the 12 mighty Elohim. You have assisted in the process, which is the only way it can occur. This is why the Chohans have come to the fore, according to cosmic councils and the karmic board. It was deemed necessary for you to have a greater closeness to each of the Chohans than you had been afforded in the past. That is why this is such a physical activity that you are engaged in at present. For many of the veils have been drawn aside so that you would have more of a tangible reality of our presence in your midst. Knowing this should bring you great comfort. For if it was not possible to have the acceleration of the light upon the earth, there would not be the great import to bringing that light in this magnitude to you or any of the sons and daughters of God upon the earth, ready and willing to receive it. For dispensations are not given as a last-ditch effort to elevate the consciousness of mankind. They are given, blessed ones, because they have been earned. Those who have received have used wisely that which have come into their keeping. And thus, more dispensations So you see, blessed ones, if the statement ever was true before, it certainly is now, that the time is shortened for the elect. For you to make the acceleration in your vehicles of consciousness, to absorb the light of God that is necessary for you to ascend at the close of this lifetime, and for you to set into motion the violet flame to consume daily the karmas that must go into the flame, for you to be allowed into the Ascension Temple for that glorious and oh so magnificent ritual of the Ascension. You must put into the flame all that you think you are, holding back nothing, for you cannot always believe what is in your outer mind or your emotional body, and therefore surrendering all to the flame of God, so that what steps forth is new, refreshed, resurrected in the flame of God. The patterns of your identity that were true and just, the keynote identity of your God presence, the good that you have accomplished throughout your many lifetimes, it is all there. And is that not the only thing worth holding on to? The human foibles and all of the mass consciousness that desires to revolve around nothingness can easily go into the flame and be forgotten. But the patterns of God reality, God truth, God will, God love, God wisdom, those blessed hearts you hold on to, and that is what the white fire of God's purity ingrains into your consciousness. It fuses the very essence of life into that perfection of God. And as you understand more of the core of your being, as this white fire, you recognize how very important is the Kundalini fire of your spinal altar. How that knits together each of the spiritual centers of your being to activate the chakras, to perform as they are intended, utilizing the light of God, the mighty I Am presence daily, to resurrect and renew life in your many forms that make up the temple of the presence. Your body temple was not an accident. The hand of God at work in all of its perfection established a vehicle in which you could be God victorious, where the light of God could shine forth, streaming constantly into your life, renewing daily, and carrying you through the span of an incarnation that was intended by your God presence for you. Certain lessons to be learned and won in those incarnations, and the fulfillment of the desire of the mighty I Am presence. when you come to my retreat. These are the things that we teach and instruct. But for a time, when you first arrive, there may be a slight uncomfortability as you adjust to such perfection. Perfection in mind and emotion. And this is the etheric retreat of which I speak. For when you come to the ascended retreat, where the Ascension Temple resides, you are already prepared to walk through the doors, for you have already been tutored in maintaining your harmony. And yes, there are lessons still to be learned before that final initiation in the Ascension Flame. But because you have worked mightily, constantly, with God determination in your outer vehicles, day in and day out, you have already honed the attainment to hold fast to the purity of God. And within your mind, emotions, and physical body that you wear, the memories that flood forth to be transmuted, the karmic patterns that you must put into the flame, all of that, blessed ones, is a matter of rote. It can be accomplished so easily. For the flame upon the altar of your heart knows exactly what must occur. It is these outer vehicles that must be trained to call forth the flames of transmutation, so that the white fire can truly be your home of light. And then when you begin to create in the fifth ray of the Elohim Cyclopeia, you begin to understand how all-important is the ability to hold fast to the purity of God. If not, the edifice of your creation may have the slightest stone out of place at its foundation. And with a vibration that comes along oh so naturally in life, the edifice would crumble because of one stone misaligned. You have a temple built by your God presence. The foundation is laid by the threefold flame of the heart, by the white fire of purity and the flame that burns upon the spinal altar of the Mother Light. And your mighty I Am presence is constantly holding the charge of the allness of God for your life stream to receive the light and radiate forth that light in all its glory as the extension, as the temple of the Most High. That is what you are working toward. All of the foolishness of mankind's human creation does not hold one flicker of a candle to the magnitude of the light that streams forth from one mighty I Am presence. That should give you great pause to consider that your mighty I Am presence is so powerful. It is because, blessed ones, in the amness of the I Am is the allness of God, is hierarchy, streaming forth their momentum, their God purity, their God reality, so that you might draw upon it, breathe it in, make it your own. What could be more perfect than the pharos of hierarchy? Your own God presence has established a hierarchy within your own vehicles of consciousness. It is only one example of the greater allness and amness of the hierarchy of light. So as you move through your day, you do not have to think that you are alone or that you must etch out this diamond out of the mine by yourself. For you have hierarchy to support you. You have your own mighty I Am presence, always there. Let your lights shine. Let the glory that is God within you have its divine and holy purpose. And when the Chauhans, 12 in number, with the Maha Chauhan, coming to your assistance, stretch forth their hand. Will you take it? Will you enter into their retreat at the appointed hour? Will you learn from their momentum and body consciousness of God, the substance that will draw you closer to your own God presence? Will you establish enough momentum of light in your own vehicles of consciousness to shine forth that light of God and establish the sanctity of all that is around you? It is worthy of the dispensation of the Lords of Karma that you receive the transfer of the white light of God's purity from the hierarchy that serve the pure ray of the white fire of God's perfection. As the core of the earth receives this charge, let your own consciousness, being, and world be filled to the capacity you are capable of holding at this moment, so that that charge will carry you all of the days of your life until you are called into the ascension and receive that flame to become one with your mighty I Am presence. Let that light so shine forth that you accomplish all that your presence has desired for you in this incarnation. And as you fulfill each victory, Recognize, blessed ones, that the glory is to God. For the victory is the victory of your mighty I Am presence. I, Serapis Bey, call forth the white fire of God's purity to be anchored into the earth and released by the hierarchy so that there can be a greater purity and momentum of the white fire in the earth to establish the foundation upon which life can continue to flourish and to bring forth the golden age.